In one of my recent finds, which, make no mistake, I will show off on the channel at some point in the next few months, there was this stray piece of tubing in the case. And I didn't know what it was for at the time, but after some exploration and messing around, it is one of my favorite recent acquisitions. Let's talk about it. When I met with the seller to pick up this aforementioned acquisition of mine, and this was in the case, they mentioned to me that, to the best of their memory, since it had been a long time since they did band in any form, this was from their tuba playing days, and that it would have gone with a sousaphone. And it sounded like they were describing to me the concept of a sousaphone bit, which attaches to the neck of the sousaphone, and then either you attach another bit on the end, or a tuba mouthpiece goes into it. The trouble being that even a large shank trombone mouthpiece, let alone a tuba mouthpiece, has no hope of going into this diameter of shank. It just doesn't work. So it isn't either for a tuba bit or a tuba mouthpiece, but nonetheless, uncharacteristically, because I have a gig on it in about a month, I do have a sousaphone on the premises right now, on loan to me from Gonzaga University's pep band director, even though I don't go to school there anymore. So anyway, I did plug this into the sousaphone bit, and it did fit in there somewhat. The funny thing being, what it actually takes on the other end of it, on the receiving end, is a small shank trombone mouthpiece. Why you would want to use a small shank trombone mouthpiece on a sousaphone is a mystery to me, but nonetheless, I plugged in one of my largest and I gave it a try. Interestingly, because of the size of the mouthpiece, I am able to attain both extremes of the range more easily, but the standard low range of the tuba, just your standard, low B flat down to low E, those notes were weird because they felt like playing pedal tones on a trombone mouthpiece. And not to mention, the tone sounded a little dodgy to me when I was playing, and it sounded even worse on the recording, so there's that, I guess. But I got to thinking, because this didn't fit perfectly in the sousaphone bit. I mean, no two sousaphone bits in history have ever fit together perfectly, but this was weird because it was tight at the bottom, and then it was a loose fit at the top, so it kind of bottomed out in the shank, and then it was kind of wobbly. And that gave me a little brainwave, and I looked over at my Conn 88H. The funny thing about older Conn 88H trombones is that they take a slightly different mouthpiece, ideally speaking. You can fit a standard large shank trombone mouthpiece in, and you get sort of the opposite effect. It's a tight fit at the top of the shank, and a loose fit at the bottom. Conn actually made and supplied their own proprietary Remington mouthpiece with the Conn 88H. This is the special Constellation variant with the gold-plated top. One of my favorite historical pieces in my collection, and I don't actually use it much because I'm afraid of damaging the finish on it, but it fits the shank through the full length of it. Nice snug fit at the top all the way down to the bottom. This is not your typical Morse taper that just about every modern brass instrument uses for the mouthpiece. It is closest to a Brown Sharpe taper, which is a little bit of a shallower taper. It doesn't taper inward as much. And so you get a fatter bottom for the same width of top of the shank. All that aside though, the way that this adapter kind of fit but kind of didn't in the sousaphone bit made me think that maybe the taper would fit my 88H better. It is a perfect fit. There is no wiggle here. In fact, it's almost liable to get stuck in my 88H. This, first of all, makes a lot more sense. Okay, it's a small shank to large Brown Sharpe shank trombone adapter. But moreover, what does this say? It means that we can turn my classical 88H into a ripper for jazz use. And this is a really exciting premise. Granted, viewers of the channel might know, I have one of the most amazing jazz trombones of all time, probably my single favorite historical piece in my collection, which is a King 3BF Silversonic with gold wash bell interior. So obviously my Silversonic is an absolute treasure to me, and this 88H is not going to replace it for my jazz use. But the thing is, I'm almost afraid to take my Silversonic places because it's in such good condition. And this average condition 88H, which is a very nice instrument, one of my favorite 88Hs that I've played, but significantly more common and in significantly worse all-around condition, I would actually be more willing to take this out on the town for stuff like outdoor gigs and just use the adapter and plug in a small shank mouthpiece of my choosing and rip on it in, frankly, much the same way as the 3BF allows me to do. The slots on it are a little funny, the sound gets a little strange depending on the dynamic I'm playing, but honestly, with this adapter, it makes a halfway decent jazz horn. The biggest place I see it being useful is for my polka gigs. I play in a polka band in the fall. I'm really excited to do my third season with them this fall. And honestly, last year I did take my Silversonic to all of the gigs, whereas in season 1 I didn't have the Silversonic, and so for the sake of having something with an F attachment, I used the 88H, and I think I used not my Constellation Remington, but a more basic, fully silver-plated Remington. But in Season 2, where I was taking the Silversonic to my outdoor gigs because of the fact that it could take small shank mouthpieces, I was a little bit worried about damaging it, and so honestly I might just take my 88 and this adapter and use whatever small and shallow mouthpiece I please and make some really jazz trombone-y type of sounds with it. Obviously this silly little piece of tubing is not a treasured artifact like a mint condition Constellation Remington mouthpiece or King 3BF Silversonic trombone, but it was a cool little find, and I'm really enjoying messing around with it. I've been noodling here and there on it just as I go about my daily tasks on this fine Sunday, just because it is a ton of fun to play and rip on an 88H with a small shank mouthpiece. I mean, who knew? I really never would have expected to get any sort of jazz-like use out of my 88H, but now, with this silly little thing, I can. The thing is, if my classical trombone was anything other than a vintage 88H, this stupid piece of tubing would be completely useless to me. But because of what we've got here, this perfect little match, honestly, I will be getting some decent use out of this. It really makes a difference when you use the proper mouthpiece on an 88H, and I don't mean that anything small shank with a small throat like this is proper for an 88H, but I just mean the shank fit really improves the sonic performance of the instrument. When I get two similar mouthpieces, one with a standard Morse taper shank and one with an actual Brown Sharpe taper that fits this receiver better, there is an appreciable difference. And the fact that I got a random 88H fitting tube like this means that even a silly small shank mouthpiece actually responds fairly well on this instrument. So I'm excited to put this thing to use. Anyway, just a silly little video for today. I just wanted to show off this little thing because it was so random, such a lucky coincidence, and honestly, a ton of fun. Until next time, I'll see you guys on the flip side. Have a good one.